Whoa! Do not adjust your device, ladies and gentlemen, in an effort to be more diverse. Hey, it's Big Tony and bienvenidos para Frisco, Texas, and Industrial Cigar Lounge. That's right, it's Big Tony Gomez taking over Common Sense. That's right. Oh, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Big Tony Gomez from Jake Wyatt Cigars Company in the house tonight. You know what I say? Just smoke it, baby. And that's right. Whoa, I'm going to throw it to Garrett here. Look, here we go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Common Sense. Sorry, we had to have a little fun with you guys there for the right out the gate. Biz's first show back.
Yay!
We got Biz back in the house. We got Big Tony Gomez in the house. I mean, how much more fun can you guys put in one room? I mean, this is going to be one of those epic shows, I can already tell. Well, for those of you that don't know who Big Tony is, Big Tony, welcome to the show. Give everybody a little bit of rundown, where you're from, what your background is, so the people that don't know you and don't know Jake Wyatt or anything that you do, give them a little rundown.
So anyway, my name is Big Tony Gomez. Thanks for having me here tonight, guys. Biz.
Absolutely.
All right. So anyway, I am Big Tony Gomez. I'm the National Sales Director for the Jake Wyatt Cigar Company. A lot of you guys might know me from my years as the regional manager, sales manager for the Espinosa Cigar Company. I did quite a few years there. I started out as a broker in Texas. I was in the retail side of the game also in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Got my start that way years ago, worked my way up, started my way in cigars at a little place called Renegade Cigar Lounge with a guy named Brandon Hayes. Good man over there. He's still in the game, hustling cigars out every day. Wonderful place to go to. Worked for Jay Davis over in Blue Smoke also. Good guy also. Blue Smoke's a great place over by Love Field Airport in the Dallas area. If you haven't tried that place, you got to go there. Also, you know, just cut my teeth, also kind of getting over to the wholesale side of the game, learning a lot about leaf with a good friend of mine. A lot of you know that name, that gentleman. Good guy, taught me a lot, real good friend of mine. Learned a lot about the cigar industry from a great guy named Jack Tarano. And now I'm working with a great guy named Neil Garcia, teaching me a lot more about the game from a perspective in elevating retail, how to approach retailers and bring them into kind of taking everything to a next level.
Yeah.
How to distinguish, you know, your company from other companies. You know, there's the ABC 1, 2, 3 aspect of getting retailers to carry your brand and working with your sales reps and brokers and stuff like that. But teaching guys how to approach and wanting retailers to carry your cigars, but not just the aspect of, hey, these are good cigars, but also these cigars can make our company better, can make our cigar lounges better, can make our operation better because of the team that stands behind these cigars. You understand what I'm saying? Like and this is what Neil Garcia is all about, and this is what Neil Garcia is teaching me now. So
it's not just what you can do for them and what they can do for you. You know, it's not one or the other. You're teaching them the back end of it to where you're not coming in just pitching like, oh, you don't have my cigars. I have really great cigars. Yeah, cool. 1,000 guys have good cigars.
Absolutely.
Like, why do I need your cigar in my lounge? And you're showing them all the back end stuff, that why it's important, what you guys do to support it, what you're going to give them, what you're going to guarantee them, how you're going to be in the lounge, be present as a brand rep and not just somebody that shows up once a year. I mean, hell, I've sat and smoked cigars with you before I even knew who you were. You know, just Saturday at the shop, running into each other, up in the public lounge, wherever it may be. I think even one of the 2 times I've been to Renegade, you were at Renegade as well.
Yeah.
which is a great place too, man. I like Renegade. That's one of the few other local places I've been to. Brandon's reached out to me a couple times. We need to go do a show there or something, and give them some love too. They're good people, man. Out of all the ones I've gone to,
great place
locally, like I do dig his place over in Richardson.
Great place, and it's one of those places that each place has its fit in a smoker's, like how you want to, what you fit into your day, like the what you're feeling that day. Just like this great place here that we're at now, the Frakes have just elevated the game in a way that can't be described. Yeah. What they do here at Industrial Cigar Lounge, is just, ICC is just, they've taken it to another level. It's indescribable. You got everything here. If you want to have a corporate membership, you got it. If you want to have a private meeting, you got it. If you just want to hang out, come in and buy a single cigar, you got that. Yeah. If you want to have a membership place to where you can hang out every day, you got it. It is, if you want to have somewhere to bring your girl, your wife, or whatever, you got that. There is no, if you want to have something good to eat, you've got it here. The Frakes have just, they have set the benchmark, man.
Drink, you want to
what they do here, you cannot, you can basically everything. If you want to have, I had a buddy come in from Michigan, and I wanted to take him somewhere special, and so we came here, and he was able to grab something to eat. He was able to have a nice bourbon, and he was so impressed. He was like, man, and he travels a lot, and he was like, man, I've never seen anything like this. And I was like, buddy, these guys, the Frakes family, when they do something, they go all the way.
Frakes don't play.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. So, and that is what is so impressive about the cigar industry, that you go from place to place and you see how they just kind of, you can have this style or this style lounge or this style. But when they took on the Jake Wyatt line, of course, I was still at another company, but Neil told me that he knew that this was an account that had to be handled a certain way. And you got to have your A game on. You got to have your game face on to be carried here at and I knew that when I was with Espinosa. I was lucky enough to have this account when I was with Espinosa. And, when you come in and when you talk to the Frakes, exactly, man. And that's just exactly it. And that's the whole thing about the industry. And it's that's what I'm saying. Neil Garcia, when he takes the examples of dealing with a company like Industrial, you have to be able to duplicate that. And why, in other words, what's so special about your cigar that we should carry it? Okay, we should be able to emulate that everywhere we go. It's not just that one shop that we have to get hyped up for and, okay, man, come on, let's, okay, why can't you do that? You have to be able at the end of the day, and this goes back to learning lessons along every journey, every part of your journey, your cigar journey that you're on, learning lessons along the way. And these are things that have been taught to me by Jack Tarano, Eric Espinosa, and so on, everybody that I incur, but especially Jack Tarano and Eric Espinosa along the way that I've spent so much time with in part of my career. You have to think 3 and 4 steps ahead, what's anticipation. Always be able to think ahead and always know, be able to produce that answer, produce anticipation of what's going to happen, occur. Think the big picture and stuff, and things of that nature. And Neil Garcia thinks the same way. And being able to just be able to not just go with the flow, but be able to set the flow, be able to have that customer follow your lead, and to like be able to help that customer want to set the standard with you. And
how did you go about doing that early on in your career? Or was that a big take you took as a step along the way? Were you able to do that early on in your
well,
career?
I'll tell you what, and I know that it's kind of like one of the things that I wanted to do that I think set me apart from some of the reps that were in the game. I started doing just these kind of videos just around, and I kind of just did it because on a whim, when I worked for I brokered for a small brand for a guy named Joel Madero, who is the guy that does our manufacturing down in the DR at Casa Murambo, and is partners with Neil Garcia in the factory down in the DR. So I just kind of thought, I've always been able to kind of, get out there and kind of, just like we started at the beginning of like Biz just kind of said, hey man, let's do that. So I was, all right, yeah, hey, let's do it. I've always kind of been that way. So I did a video saying, hey guys, this is Big Tony Gomez. I'm here at Calypso Cigar Lounge with Matt Badowski, and we're going to start carrying Madero cigars here. And we released it on Facebook that night, and I get a phone call from Jay Davis the next morning, who owns Blue Smoke. And I was working there part-time at night and brokering during the day. And Jay Davis was very complimentary about it and said, hey, you're going to do real well with that. And those videos, you need to keep doing that, because nobody else was doing them at the time.
I first saw you because
Yeah.
I think I had friended you just along the way in my cigar journey because I saw you at places.
Yeah.
I was like, and I remember like one of the first things I saw was one of your videos you popped up where you're like really like explaining things, you're breaking things down, you're sharing things along your cigar journey, showing different places, showing different things, and I was like, okay, that's like really solid, like that's good information. It wasn't just bullshit promotion stuff straight out the gate, even though I was like, man, I'm pretty sure he's a cigar rep. Like, I don't remember which one, but like, I was just like, it got my attention and I started watching it, so I just started recognizing you when you'd be in the shop periodically and stuff, and then, eventually we started a conversation and, went down that path. So I think that's a good thing, man, like to do that even on your own accord.
Yeah.
Like your company and your employer, either one of them that were both related to cigars, weren't asking you to do that. But I think that's something that differentiates you and kind of levels it up for everybody.
I kind of, and it kind of caught on, and I started getting messages and text messages and phone calls from guys around the country asking me if I wanted to carry their cigars. People I had never met. Guys, there was a brand from New York, there was a brand from Miami, and I hadn't heard of these brands. They were small brands, but it was new to me that like, wow, these guys, I've never heard of these guys, but it was something to kind of get reached out to. So anyway, it was being different. It was the distinguishing factor of it. So anyway, it kept rolling and whirling, and that formula just kind of continued on, and it still does till this day. And then I kind of made like a makeshift studio in my garage, and started doing videos. And there's times where I want to continue them, more of like a more consistent spot, like you've got, but just with travel and everything like that, it is a little more time, a little more difficult. But I tell you what, I take my hat off to you, man, because this takes a lot of work. A lot of guys think it's just kind of, hey, you show up and you just kind of throw a video out there, but there's a lot of work involved with this. So that's when this takes a lot of commitment. Like with what
I concur.
Exactly.
Thank you, man.
I mean, you and Biz. You got Biz producing over for you here. Me, I just set my camera up and I got Okay, I will say this, I got a ring light, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And then I got a sign behind me in my garage.
But that works, man. As long as the message is good, you don't need Hollywood.
Hey,
You just
let me
need to
tell
get a
you
good
something.
message out there, man.
But it would, if I could put that much production into it, I would. I just don't. I've got other commitments, but
you got a
but
guy.
I
You
tell
know
you,
somebody. Just as long as you know somebody, we can do that for you.
so maybe we'll talk. So anyway.
That's a huge compliment. We're going into our 3rd year now, rocking and rolling with this, and to me, you can't half-ass it.
Absolutely.
If you're gonna do it, just do it. Like, most people spend too much time talking about it and thinking about it. I'm sure my wife was excited to know that, I got biz right out the gate.
Yeah.
Because if I hadn't, I'm the type of person that, I'd have gone and bought that badass camera. I'd have bought the light setup. I'd have bought the mics. I'd have been doing all this shit. And I wouldn't have known how to use half of this shit. And I'd have just been struggling along, trying to figure it out. And it was like, why? Biz needed to work. Yep. I needed to do shit. It worked out, and it's worked out from the very beginning, man. So it's been cool, man. It's been a fun journey.
It's worked out for going on 3 years today.
Yeah. So,
and that is awesome, man.
Thanks,
Congratulations. And like I said, I take my hat off to you. And that speaks volumes for the type of fortitude and the commitment that you guys have put forth for this. And it's just, yeah.
Well, you still have to learn and pivot. I guess this is as good a time as ever, but we're going to redirect and focus the show a little bit, make some changes over the next few months. So you guys will see some changes. It's still going to be same day, same time, all that stuff, but we're going to try to hone in on the things that we think are working better than other things. But it's not as simple. I kind of envy people like you that, you picked a lane. I didn't pick a lane with the podcast. At first, it was kind of I'm going to just talk about multifamily, but I knew that pocket wouldn't go because that's my day job. I knew that pocket wouldn't last very long because a lot of those people are afraid to get on camera. Yeah. And a lot of them don't want to talk. Unless they're in a sales type role or used to being in front of people, they don't want to sit there and talk shop with you on camera, live especially.
Yeah.
That's taboo, so I'm not just selling a product, right? I'm selling the information and people being able to learn these different things and hear these conversations with unique individuals like yourself that specialize in XYZ, and maybe that's their thing. Maybe they want to go down that path. Maybe they can learn a lesson from you. So we're going to kind of hone that in a little bit more because, we got to get that growth factor working now. We're hitting that critical period between year 3 and year 4 of really making that stuff happen. So yeah, it's a challenge at times, but kudos to people like you though too that are making yourself available and doing things like this. Not everybody in this industry wants to get on here and just talk shop. Yeah. And I have much respect for the guys that do, and you'll notice one thing between the guys on here. You'll see this on some of the other cigar shit. You won't see it on my show. We ain't on here to bash other cigar brands or
definitely not.
Other shops, other lounges, other stuff. You never know. It's just the small world thing with any industry.
Yeah.
You don't know you'll be working at Jake Wyatt forever. You go on here, and what if, had you not bashed, I'll make something up, Davidoff, instead of that, what job opportunity or future thing did you just piss on?
Jonathan over at Davidoff, man, he's a great friend of mine. I see him all the time, and we sit and talk. And I ran into him down in Houston a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I see him all the time. He's been a great friend of mine.
Now, would you say that this industry is more community versus the drama? Now, I have witnessed a couple of Lamborghini versus Ferrari rivals.
Same.
And I was with Neil when I saw it, and I was like, oh, wow, I don't believe this. But for the most part, would you say it is a good community?
I would say the majority of the reps and the majority of the companies are community-based. Very, very, they have a good continuity flow going with each other. Now, I myself have never had an issue with another company. Have never. Now, early on, I had one incident when I was brokering. I was at a small cigar lounge over on the other side of town, and I had a small cigar company while I was doing a cut and light. A smaller cigar company that's still around, and they came in and they started handing out samples
During your cut and light?
during my cut and light. And I don't really think that they knew. I just don't think they read the room right, is really what I think happened. And I kind of just told the guy, hey, you know, man, I got a cut and light going here. And he was just like, oh, well, you know, we're fixing to leave. And I just kind of thought, well, fixing to leave or not. But anyway, it worked itself out, and they were gone in like 2 or 3 minutes later.
I mean, it's still a very competitive industry, too.
It is. And that's the whole thing. And even though it is competitive, there is a big sense of camaraderie with a lot of the reps. And a lot of the reps, I'd say the majority of the reps that I know help each other out, will be there to help another rep out if, say, you have a car breakdown issue. I've seen reps, hey man, come on, I'll help you out. You know, I'll give you a ride or whatever. You know, I'll get you to the shop. Or I've seen that incident happen before. I've seen reps say, hey, you know what? Your car's not going to be ready till later on today. Come on, we'll ride together and we'll visit shops together while out of town. I've seen that occur. I've given guys when their car's out of town or being out of town break down, give them a lift back into town. And, you know, the situation.
Yeah.
I have, you know, seen guys, you know, say, hey, man, are you at that shop? Yeah. Hey, you know, if you could do me a big favor, I know, you know, could you just do me a favor, pick up those 2 boxes for me, and I'll meet you over at this shop later today and hand those 2 boxes off to me later today. It's like, you know, the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like
Common courtesy.
Yeah, common courtesy. And then, you know, you might need a favor from them later on down the road. And then switch it, like contact, you know, information, stuff like that. Now, you know, there is, you know, you want to respect boundaries also at the same time. You don't want to ask a guy for too big of a favor. You know, there's nothing like, hey man, can you do me a favor and like take these boxes across town for me today? I'm going to sit at home and watch TV all day.
Yeah.
No, hey bud, get up and go to work. You know,
Yeah.
something like that. So at the same time, everything has to be done within you know, proper decorum. And it's just that way. You know, like say you show up to a shop and you're unannounced and you walk in, which we all do it, and you see somebody having a meeting. Well, don't just plop down, man. You know, you just, oh, hey man, I'm gonna go grab a cup of coffee at Starbucks. I'll be back later. Or if it's not a good time, I'll come back some other time, because you didn't call to make an appointment. So you need to amscray. You need to go.
Yeah,
you know?
I've watched some of those situations unfold before, where somebody comes in and there's already somebody else that has an appointment, has an event going on, and it's like, ugh, that's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, the last thing
you're just gonna.
The last thing you want to do is go sit down next to the man. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I mean. And that's when you exercise common sense.
If everybody has some common sense, though.
There you go. I mean, come on, man. I mean, just, you know, so, and these are things that if you don't already know, you should develop over the course of time.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, some guys don't. And these are usually the guys that are kind of left out. You know, you just kind of, well, you know, these guys are kind of left out. And those are the few that aren't in that. There's a core of guys that we all know and
Well, you
we
can
all know
see
who
it
they
even
are.
with like reps and brokers. If I've seen it here and other places as well, where let's just say a really big name cigar guy's coming in and here for a few days, and man, that spreads like wildfire through the industry. And then you start seeing all the guys showed up. But what's cool is you see multiple cigar brand owners sitting around, enjoying each other's cigars, chopping it up, having conversation, which I think is pretty unique. I mean, here at ICC, you don't see that everywhere.
Yeah.
You don't have a Luciano lounge, a Nelson Alfonso lounge, a Darren Chaffee lounge, all in one building, and then show up and all three of those guys are hanging out together, enjoying each other's company. I mean, you don't see that everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
But it shows that it is possible. It does happen in this community, but it is also competitive, and there's a balance there. And I think, like you said best, common sense teaches you a lot in there.
But, I mean, hey, we're talking about a very unique place. And like I said, this place, they take it to the next level. So, with that being said, I mean, and the thing is, and to your point, just like reps get along, just like reps and national sales directors get along and see each other and everything, which, I'm learning this position as national sales director for Jake Wyatt, and I'm still finding my way. When you say the word national sales director, I look at a man like Jack Geronimo. I look at a man like Juan Lopez. I look at guys like that, and those are national. So Juan Lopez. He's actually vice president at Gurkha. So, but I mean, I see men like that have accomplished great things, and I don't put myself in those alongside those guys, but when I say, so I still consider myself just a guy who goes out, still working along, hustling, just like any other rep out there, because I'm still visiting shops. I'm still, working under Neil Garcia. I'm just a guy who goes out there and wants to help out accounts, and I'll never stop being that guy. I'm always a guy that, man, I love good cigars. I love good cigars. I love good tobacco. I live for this stuff. This is my purpose. This is my passion. I like selling, and I'm pretty good at it, but I love tobacco, man. And I get up, and this is what I found. I found my niche in life, and this is it right here. I love cigars.
Where did your cigar journey start?
It all started, I got my first cigar. I used to work at this, I was running this furniture warehouse down in the uptown area of Dallas, over at Knox and Henderson and McKinney over in the uptown area. And I made this delivery one day, and this guy, he says, "Man, I don't have any beer money to tip you." And I said, "Man, that's okay. I don't need any tip money, man. I'm good." And he goes, "No, man." And I was about 22, 23 years old. And he says, "No, man, I got something better for you." And he goes over to his humidor, and he lifts up his humidor, and he pulls out a couple of Fuentes, and he cuts them for me, and he puts them in tin foil because he didn't have any Ziploc bags or anything. And he gives me some matches, and I go back home that night, and I'm listening to the Stars game on my balcony, and I light these up, and I think one of them was a Chateau, and I think one of them was an 858, and they were Maduros, man. I just remember them being real dark. And back then, the only place to buy cigars, he told me about this place called the Tobacco Club, way over at Trinity Mills and Midway, and the place is long gone. And I just remember
there's nothing over there.
Yeah, and I just remember them being like, "Whoa, man, these are goods." Like, wow, nothing like no cigarette or anything like I had smoked. Like, this is good. And so I go to the place, right? And I showed the guy the Fuente ring, and he goes, "Yeah," he goes, "I got a whole bunch of stuff with that ring on it. It's all in there." And he goes, good luck. The guy didn't even help me, like, go into the walk-in humidor. So I just remember buying a couple of Fuentes, and I bought a couple of Ashton, and that's how it all started. And that's when I started, like, going and getting cigars every once in a while. And then a good friend of mine, he started smoking cigars, but he liked punches, and were kind of expensive, you know, not like, you know, we were kids, man. We were like 23, 20, 24. You know, we were drinking, we were guzzling the Miller Lite like it was going out of style, man. So I kind of liked his idea of buying the punch cigars for a little less money. So I started smoking punches, and that's how it all kind of came about. And then years later, I see this place, Renegade Cigar Lounge, you know, and I would see cigar places every once in a while. I remember there was a place on Turtle Creek Boulevard.
Is this Chuck Norris's place?
No, that was Lone Wolf Cigars over on Cedar Springs. That was owned by him and Jim Belushi.
Yeah.
And it didn't last long. That's a cafe. That's a Texas de Brazil now.
Okay.
But I remember that place. It was called like Lone Wolf Cigar Lounge or something like that.
Sounds about right.
You had to be wearing a suit and all this stuff to go in.
Now, when I was still, the house that I grew up in, the guy next door was a guy named Steve, to the house that I grew up in when I was a kid in East Dallas. His name was Steve Sumrow, I remember, and he was a cigar smoker. And he used to go there every once in a while when he could afford it. Because he said, no, man, he goes, I like cheap cigars. And when he said cheap cigars, he meant like $6, $7, like $5, $6 cigars, you know. He says, you go there, bud. He goes, you gotta spend money, you know. But he went there like around like just after the grand opening, and he said it was real high dollar, you know. And but I do remember that place, man. Yeah. And he said, now this is what he told me. He told me that they had a house cigar with the logo brand on there, but he said it was actually just a remake, or it was just rebanded from a cigar called 4 Star Cigar. Now, I never heard of 4 Star Cigar, and I looked for it because later on in life, right, I looked for it, and I asked people, have you ever heard of a cigar called 4 Stars? No, so I never could find it. But that place went belly up, man, after about probably maybe it lasted a couple years. I don't know. But I do remember after it was the Lone Wolf Cigar Lounge or whatever it was, it became a Texas de Brazil. Gotcha. But it's down over there. It's it's over in the Ruth, like by Ruth Street. Okay. Oh yeah. So it's very close.
Several people have brought it up before. So
but everybody thinks it was over by the AAC, by the American Airlines Center, by the ACC, where the Havana Cafe or the Havana Cigar Lounge was, or that place, you know. But no, it was actually in a different location. Yeah. So, but I do remember that place, my man. But I never went there. Yeah.
Well, that's cool, man, to know that's how your journey started. Josh, I'm going to address this real quick. The music podcast is still happening. We got hit with some trademark issues trying to get everything lined up. I'm hoping to have that rocking after the first of the year. So that is still coming. It's not done, started. It's in progress, but I'm at the mercy of attorneys getting shit done now. So once that's done, then I can start moving forward. But right now I'm in the holding pattern on that. So that's why we haven't brought it up in a while. But back to your cigar story. So where did you make the transition of like, all right, I really like cigars, been playing around with them for X amount of years, learning about them. I mean, I feel like I'm still like a complete novice. Like, I know in a minute when we really dive into these cigars we're smoking and your other parts of your line, you're going to be speaking basically full Spanish to me, and I'm going to understand about every other word. So where did that journey take off as far as making this not just your hobby and a passion, but making it a job?
So I was working, like I said, I used to be in the bar and restaurant industry, and that just kind of morphed into to kind of what I was doing. I used to live down in the Deep Ellum area, and I was running a place called Reno's Chop Shop.
No shit.
Yeah, I used to run Reno's, man.
Oh, I definitely ran into you then back in the Deep Ellum days.
Yeah, so and I was living down there and everything, and I was working at another place called Mamma Mia's, and I was also working at American Airlines Center. And
we have a lot of common friends then.
So like
Barlow.
Yeah, and I lived over in the City Lofts, right over by All Good Cafe. So anyway, and when you're in Deep Ellum, man, you kind of your life revolves around. Yeah, exactly. And but when I kind of came out of that, and I met Tam and everything, and we go up and I'm back in the suburbs and everything, and I'm working I start working as a bar manager and a district manager for AMC movie theaters is my last bar gig. And I start just like, man, I'm not, the bar thing's just kind of like wearing out with me. And, I had stopped drinking by then and everything. And of course, I had been going to Renegade for a little bit, and Brandon Hayes had just taken it over, okay? And so, we're talking, and I asked one of the guys, hey man, if they needed someone like maybe a couple nights a week or one night a week or whatever. And then I get a call from Brandon. He says, hey man, why don't you come up and we'll talk about it. And so, we talk, and he puts me on. And his GM leaves because he gets a dream job that he wanted forever out in California. But he doesn't need a GM. He just needs somebody to help him out more. So I'm like, bro, let's work this out, And of course, we're not, you're not getting a king's ransom or anything at that point. But I got a chance to learn something here. And I'm doing a couple of other things on the side. I got a couple other side hustles going there. And I meet Noel Rojas. So this is where things get a little real. Because Noel, at that time, he had a rolling table there. And he had a young lady named Brenda working there. And while Noel he's got a cabinet that he's filling there, and he's making the house cigars there. So there's some beautiful cigars coming off this table. And that's when Noel's teaching me about this and that and leaf. And then we're also kind of, as a couple years go by, I'm working for Noel doing like his fresh rolled events and stuff. And Noel tells me, Tony, you need to be a rep. So at that time, man, I meet
You're
that's
such a
fancy.
dickhead.
That's fancy. Fancy boy.
Y'all see what kind of dickheads work at ICC? There you go.
Anyway.
Hey, make sure you drink it with your pinky.
Well, good friends.
Yeah,
Put your
pinky up. So
Good
anyway.
God.
So anyway, I meet Fish, I meet Trey, I meet Brophy, I meet Gordon. Gordon Will from Rocky Patel. I meet all the guys, man. I meet Paul Costo from Oliva. I meet, all the guys, man. And Fish actually was one of the first guys to kind of start telling me, well, man, I'm trying to think of a way that maybe I can get you in the game, get you. But Fish's thing was, but I'm trying to think, like, how can I get you paid? That's my whole thing, is like money, like. And at that point, I'm like, brother, I'm not even worrying about the money. I'm just trying to get some experience. So anyway, a couple years go by with me and Brandon, and I get an offer to go to Up and Smoke because Dan Schmidt wants a guy with bar experience and cigar experience. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, and then I take that opportunity and I go, And that was a different experience, but, you know, because I'm learning all kinds, because he's got multiple locations. I had to close one shop down and rebuild another shop, and I did that twice with him. Now, the thing about Up in Smoke was, it was different municipalities. So I learned a lot more than just working with cigars, but that was kind of an odd thing, because there was so much. There was a lot of internal stuff going on.
You can glaze over that one if you want.
So
we don't have to go deep.
We're
there.
just going to kind of, but I'll tell you what, at the end of it all, Dan and I are good friends now.
Yeah.
We really are. And I wish Dan the best. Now, but the good thing that came out of all that is that in the workings of all that, my good friend Jeff Peters started building Main Street Cigars out in Rowlett.
Okay.
So, and I started working for Jay Davis part-time over at Blue Smoke. So that's where I meet Joel Madero. And one day Jeff is saying, hey, I got this guy coming in. He says he makes cigar, or he says he produces cigars out of Costa Rica. He says, so when Joe Madero gets there, he says, hey, Tony, sit in on this meeting with me. So Joe Madero's going through the whole spiel of his cigars and this and that. And I started asking him a few questions. And after the meeting, Joe Madero tells me, hey, man, who do you rep for? And I'm like, no, man, I'm just friends with him, helping him kind of out while he's building this lounge. We're kind of going over ideals and stuff. And he tells me, well, I need a guy in Texas. Are you interested? And I'm like, well, yeah, man, you know. And that's where it all came down. Basically, he tells me, I got to go to Houston. I'll call you in a week. Week turns into 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and I'm like, well, maybe the guy was just, you know, maybe the guy was just talking trash. Anyway, he finally comes back into town. We sit down, we talk. He says, come, he goes, we'll talk again tomorrow. Man, the next day, he gives me a price list and a Ziploc bag full of cigars and says, hey, man, I'll see you in a month. Good luck, kid. You know what I mean? And that was it, bro. And that was my introduction to becoming a rep right there. And he was like, and I was like, well, what's my territory? And he's like, you know, freaking McAllen to Amarillo from.
So you're just giving free reign.
El Paso to freaking, Nacogdoches, man. You know, like.
So just free reign.
Yeah, just go ahead and go. You know.
What? And how old are you at this point?
This is basically, gosh, what, about 2 years before Espinosa. So this is like, and I was with Espinosa for almost like 5 years. So, and I've been with Jake Wyatt now almost a year. So this was basically
2018.
Like 8 years. No, somewhere around there. Yeah, like 2017. Like
so,
yeah.
Were you ever?
I was still with Blue Smoke. I mean, I would just broker during the day, and because I was calling on shops, because I was going to all these shops as a customer. So everywhere I went as a customer, I was hitting them now as a broker.
So, was that the kind of position you were looking for, or that you were aspiring to get to, or was this kind of like just an opportunity that was like any opportunity I can get?
Any opportunity I could have gotten. I was just wanting my chance.
So you were just willing to throw all in, no matter what it was.
No matter what it was, and I knew I could still have a little bit of money coming in from my, and then I was also still working for Noel, like fresh rolled gigs. So I was still doing fresh rolled events for Noel, working for Jay Davis, shifts at Blue Smoke, and then brokering for Joel Madero. And then, so we did a cigar for the Underground, because the Underground decided to bring Madero in, and the introduction was at the NFG on a Friday night, and Mr. Jack Geronimo was there. And we did so well on that Friday night. And we sold, because I hyped it up so well with the videos and everything. All right, guys, we got this Habano with the, with the barber pole, with the barber pole, with the Candela.
Are you talking about Underground in Fort Worth?
Yeah,
Okay.
Underground in Fort Worth, NFG. And so it was the NFG Fest, and it was his first year with Espinosa. So he was there, and I had met Jack very briefly one time, but I knew who Jack was, man. I mean, everybody knows Jack Geronimo at this point. And he had just come from General and started over at Espinosa. And I met him. He was on that Espinosa Cigars giving away humidors tour, and he was at Blue Smoke one Sunday afternoon. And Patrick Carmichael was still working over at Blue Smoke. And we're switching shifts. He's day shift, I'm night shift, and I'm telling Patrick, introduce me to Jack, man. And he's like, hey, Jack, this is Big Tony Gomez, man. And he's like, yeah, hey, man, how you doing? And he just turns and walks, didn't even give me.
Didn't give you 2 minutes.
Not even, bro, not even. So anyway, so when I see Jack at the Underground in Fort Worth, I see him on that Saturday after the Friday night, and he's walking by and he's like, hey, Tony, how you doing, man? And I'm like, hey, I'm doing good, Jack. Hey, how you doing, man? And I turn and I look, and I can't remember who was standing. I said, hey, man, Jack Geronimo, remember my name, man. True story, man. So anyway, all right, so about 2 months later, after the Underground thing, right? So Joe Madeto was wanting to go into manufacturing, and he had been aiming that way. So this is where the story this is how this all comes together. He's telling me, hey man, I'm gonna start building the factory. I've already got the property, I've got everything down in the DR. In fact, I even got a couple of customers lined up. These guys in California. One of them's an ex-baseball player, one of them's an ex-fireman. They got a cigar company they're gonna start called Jake Wyatt. They've seen your videos and they like you. They even talked about maybe, possibly you brokering for them. And I said, oh, okay, well, maybe we'll talk, man. So at the same time as all this is going on, I get a phone call from our good friend, so good buddy of mine. So he says, hey man, what are you doing? And I said, I'm about to go to lunch. He goes, no, man, not that. He goes, what are you doing in life, man? I said, well, I'm doing my thing. He goes, I got something for you. And I said, well, my good buddy Todd Vance is who I'm talking about, And Todd Vance, everybody knows Todd Vance. He used to work for Cornelius Anthony, and then he worked for Padilla, and then he used to work for AJ Fernandez. He left the industry because, he had some family stuff going on. But anyway, at that time, man, he was really rolling high.
Okay.
So anyway, he says, hey, I got something for you. And I said, what do you got? And he goes, I got Espinosa calling. He goes, and they're interested in talking to you. And I said, okay, man. I said, let's do it, And that's when he goes, you're going to be getting a call from Jack Geronimo. And I said, okay. I said, no problem. So Jack calls me and we talk, and he goes, hey Tony, how you doing? This is Jack Geronimo. And I said, hey Jack, how are you? And he's, and that's when it all started coming together. But, Neil's like, Joel is telling me, hey, the factory's on, man. We're going to start building, it's going to be great. Just hold off a couple of months. And he goes, and cigars are going to start coming out, because they had a small factory that they were going to start building in. They had one under construction, but they had one they were going to start producing out of, like a small building, already ready to go. Anyway, I said, hey man, I got to talk to you real quick. And he goes, oh, I don't like the sound of that. And then he goes, and he said, who called you? And I said, Jack Geronimo and Eric Espinosa. And he goes, and he just says, oh, you got to go, bro. He goes, you can't say no to that, you know? So anyway, basically, I got called on like a Friday. Everything evened out on Monday. And Jack told me, meet me in Houston on Wednesday. And that Saturday, after that Wednesday, that Saturday, I was working the Texas Cigar Fest for Espinosa. And the rest was history, man. That was it. So
that's cool, man, that you were able to, you know, develop a passion, find something you love, and then you just grinded it out until you learned enough and things fell in place. While constantly trying to provide value in any way that you could. It didn't matter. It reminds me a lot of my journey in multifamily, you know, from insurance to having my own decorative concrete business to going into multifamily and starting off as an estimator, working up to sales, and then becoming a partner. You know, like, it was just, I was going to do whatever it took to continue to elevate myself. Like, I wanted more. But, you know, you watch people that get so caught up, especially at a young age, and this is a direction we're going to go with a lot of this in the future. You know, so many people worry about finding their purpose, I think they confuse purpose and passion. And they get so caught up on, like, I don't feel like I have a purpose in life. Or I don't have a passion. I want to do my passion. Well, then they do it and realize, like, might not be my passion. And, you know, you have guys switching all around, whereas you kind of, like, you tackled life and just kind of, like, kept moving forward. And you're like, all right, I really like this thing. Like, I want to keep this at the forefront, but I'm going to do whatever I can. And I think there's a good lesson to be learned there of, like, even if you don't have it all figured out, be doing something in that arena that you think you want to be in. I mean, it don't matter how small, part-time, once a week, whatever, that you're growing in that arena. Because if you're doing it right and people see that passion and that desire because you're pursuing something that you're interested in and that you end up showing passion for. Like, you may not know what your exact passion and purpose is yet, but if you're passionate about what you're doing, things seem to, like, find their way along that road.
I think so. I would agree with that. And I learned a lot from Jack, and I'm learning so much more in this next phase with Neil, in that it's like, I'm not going to be the world's smartest on this and that, but I'm going to give you everything I got, brother. It's like, I'm never going to stop for you. I'm always going to be there. And I have the determination to keep going, but I will be there every day for you. I will keep going. I mean, I'm going to, and the thing is, I love communicating with people. I love being passionate and straight up with people, and just, you know, connecting with people and being able to relay the fact that, look, you can buy this or that, but I'm always going to be appreciative of you buying ours. Now, there are so many good cigars.
But you also take advantage of opportunities too, really well, in my opinion. When I've been sitting talking with you amongst a group of people, like, I'm just gonna, like, totally throw this out here right now. In the scenario that led to this show, I literally came in for a Saturday at the shop, and as I show up, Luciano and the Luciano entourage shows up. And we're here for Saturday's shop. Like, I didn't know this was happening. You know, like, we had other stuff going on. There wasn't going to be a show that next week, this and that. you're sitting amongst this group that I got, I came and sat down. We're all chopping it up. We're all talking about what's going on in life.
Luciano was there. Ron Harper.
We're catching up, man. We're shooting the shit. We're joking. We're talking about cigars. We're asking everybody, like, what are you smoking? It's always funny to me, like, majority of these big guys, like a Luciano, like, they're not always smoking their cigar.
Yeah.
Like, they want to know what else is out there, what else is inspiring them to do something different. And so, like, we're having all these conversations, and Luciano and I started talking, and we were trying to, like, all right, man, like, I could do this, like, pop-up show. And me and Luciano have been trying to do a show for, like, 2 years, and it never works out. Like, he's got these commitments, and, like, this, that, and I'm like, all right, fuck it. I'm going to, like, whatever we got to do, like, Biz jumped through hoops, I jumped through hoops, like, we made this shit happen. Like, Luciano's one of my favorite people to talk to in the world. Yeah. Like, he's just that dude that you sit and have a conversation with.
Yeah. And it was an excellent show, man.
Yeah, it's just a great time.
Him for a long time, bro.
But we're all, like, you don't work for Luciano, you work for a competitor. Like, but we're all sitting here chopping it up. Ron's got his cigar. We're all talking, going through the things. And I remember, like, at the end, you, like, disappeared for a little while. And you came back. And then you and I started talking. And you were like, hey, man, so have you, like, smoked any Jake Wyatt? And I was like, yeah, man. So I've smoked 2. I was like, and you're going to, like, not like this, but, like, I don't remember which 2. I was like, I can describe one of them well enough that you're going to know which one it is. Yeah. I was like, it was like the Jack Daniels shit. Like, I hate Jack except for some very select barrel picks. Like, I don't like the charcoal filtering stuff. And you're like, and I was like, and I smoked because it was like the big thing, like Jake Wyatt's here. That's this thing. Yeah. And man, that cigar, like, totally did not sit well with me. Yeah. Like, I just didn't like it. And then I smoked one other that I was like, this is good. It's not great. And you're like, all right, man. Like, I appreciate the feedback, like, but hey, I got something for you, man. Like, and you literally, you're like, this is like, I think you said, like, our gourmet line. And you're like, I got something for you. He's like, smoke them at your leisure, whenever you want. Like, here's one of, like, everything we offer. And you gave me a pack with, like, I don't remember, 6, 8 cigars. And I was like, holy shit. All right. Like, all right, I got these. And we were like, all right, we're going to reconnect. You're traveling. I'm traveling. Like, all right, we'll get a show together. You and I are going to sit down and chop it up. Like, all right, cool. So then I started smoking these cigars, man. And I'm not going to lie. Out of, like, I think there was 6.
Yeah.
I think there was 6.
Yeah,
and out of all 6, and this is super rare, you guys, like, so for those that don't know, like, when a national director of cigars, sales director, or a rep hands you a pack of cigar, you're lucky most of the time if one is really good and 2 or 3 are like, all right, cool, I can roll with this. Like, not me. I mean, I smoke everything under the sun when it comes to cigars. Like, a good cigar is a good cigar. It doesn't have to be Connecticut. It can be Maduro. It could be like, I mean, I bounce all over the place. It's kind of like music for me.
Absolutely.
If I'm in a certain mood, all right, cool. I want a Maduro. I want something kind of like, all right, I need something hit me. Hit me in the face, like, give me that punch. Sometimes I'm like, man, like, I just need to chill. Like, I need something light, smooth, refreshing. I'm going to go grab me an Atabay and just, really sit back and enjoy some shit. But that varies, and it's so unique between each people. But I can honestly say, out of all 6 of those cigars, there wasn't one that I disliked. Now, I had 2 favorites, and this is where I kind of want to transition, because I know a lot of people tuned in here. They want to know more about Jake Wyatt cigars and really, like, dig into this with you a little bit. So the 2 that I really liked, number 1 was the USIR. So that's what I'm smoking right now, because ICC does not carry this yet, but I'm going to be asking that this gets brought into ICC, because that is my favorite of the Jake Wyatts. Now, the Candela which is like the green torpedo. That was number 2 for me. But all of them down the line were good cigars. They're at a good price. I mean, like, nobody's going to go broke trying to, like, smoke a good cigar with Jake Wyatt. Like, there's nothing in their line that I've seen so far that is, like, outrageous. There's no, like, $40, $60, $100 sticks here. Like, you're talking your normal, everyday, grab it, whether it's your cup of coffee, it's your bourbon, or whatever this colossity of a drink.
What do you got going there?
Dude, I don't even know what that is. The first one that I ordered was a smoked old fashioned. So I don't know what Jacob brought me. It's not pink, so that's a first. So
You spell it. The drink is called FOO space FOO.
a fofo?
No, it's a foo-foo drink because I don't know what the hell that is.
Foo-foo.
I mean, it kind of tastes like a Manhattan, but it's
So
not.
maybe he just made you an old fashioned in a prissy ass glass.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
That could be.
Maybe
he just
experiment
put
with
that
drinks,
in
and I
there,
think
you know,
Garrett
he
is
just-
literally the guinea pig every Thursday.
I'm a guinea pig for a lot of shit just because they like fucking with me. Because I mean, I give it out as much as I take it. So, you know, it's all is fair in love and war, I guess.
So let me address the Candela that you were talking about. So our Candela is called the Lucid Interval.
Lucid
And
interval. That's
the
right.
Lucid Interval, yes, sir. So the one you were talking about, that's our Bellicoso that I gave you the Bellicoso size. So, and I'm glad you brought that up because a Bellicoso, when I was in retail, and
Explain a Bellicoso too for those that don't know.
So a
'cause-
Bellicoso is a bit more rounder than a torpedo. A torpedo will be will have more of the pointier shape.
a tighter cone.
Yeah, a tighter cone. Exactly, a tighter cone. The Bellicoso will be a little more rounder up towards the cap of the cigar. So, and if you were to get a torpedo and a Bellicoso side by side, you would see the difference. But you know, man, it's a common that's a common miscall with when you see a Bellicoso just by itself. A lot of people call them torpedoes all the time. So, but,
I did it.
You know, if you want to get to me, hey, you know, a lot of times we keep the Bellicosos around. And like if we're out of the Toro, I'll switch somebody to the Bellicoso, and they'll like if they order a couple of boxes of Toro and the Toros are on back order, I'll say, hey, why don't I send you a box of Bellicoso just to tie you
Well, it
over.
was also the one that I was most leery about because I've maybe had one or two other Candela type wrappers, and man, this one is not like earthy. Like I would describe like most Candelas. If you like Scotch, you'd probably like a Candela because it's like that peated moss, like earthy. I don't know how else you describe it. It's earthy and mossy, and it's just got that like, I don't know. It's like you're drinking athletic greens in a shake.
So when I'm selling our Candela, when I go back to my retail days, because when I used to sell Candela in the humidor to a customer, I would always tell them how long. Like I would ask them, kind of make an inquiry with them as to how long they've been smoking, and do they smoke cigars like Sumatra, Corojo, things of that nature, not just Maduro, because I wanted them to have their palate more used to the stronger cigars like that, because I would always tell them a Candela tends to be a little more grassier and gamier. The brands that were more of the more popular Candelas back then were that way. Now, our Candela is blended quite the opposite. Our Candela is more to where we line it up with our Connecticut, to where it's more lighter, it's more smooth, to where we actually tell people, if you like a cigar with your morning coffee, we recommend our Appendix, which is our Connecticut. And we recommend our Lucid Interval, which is our Candela. So when I get a guy that says, man, I don't smoke Candelas, I always tell him, I tell you what, try this one. If it's not to your liking, I'll replace it with something else. I'll do that, and usually the guys will come to me and say, man, this Candela smoked like no other Candela I've ever smoked before.
It's totally different.
And usually,
I mean, I started off my golf round with that one.
Yeah.
Actually, like, I think I'd had breakfast, cup of coffee, maybe a Bloody Mary at this point, and like first cigar I lit up of the day, and I was like, and it's funny because I had a client with me, and I had the Candela and I had the USIR, and I still don't know his complete palate on cigars, and I was trying to get him something that he would like. I had a lot of other stuff in my travel bag that I was like, all right, I know how it smells. Like, I think he'll like this.
Yeah.
Like, this is right down the line. He's not going to love this. He's not going to hate this.
Yeah.
Well, true story. So I smoked the Candela. I'm done. I'm like, oh, man, that was damn good. Like, all right. Like, I think this is my favorite at this point. Like, so far, I think this is my favorite out of here. So the day goes on, we're drinking, we're golfing, whatnot, and I'm like, we finish the front 9, we're headed to the back 9. I'm like, all right, it's time for another cigar. I pull out the USIR.
Yeah.
And I start smoking it. And man, I smoked about that much of it, about an inch of it.
Okay.
And I'm telling my client, my friend, I'm like, dude, this cigar is the shit. I was like, I got to remember this one. I was like, I'm going to take the wrapper off right now and go put it with my wallet so that I can remember when I see Big Tony, I'm going to be like, all right, this is the one. Because they all have these different weird names on the labels. I'm trying to remember them, and I'm like, I know I'm half shit-faced playing golf. Like, I ain't going to remember this. And he goes, so it's that good? Is it better than one you gave me? I'm like, dude. He's like, why didn't you give me that cigar? I was like, dude, this is the first time I've ever smoked this. Like, I didn't know if this was going to be good, trash, whatever. Like, I don't know. I gave you something I knew to. He's like, give me that cigar. I was like, all right, man. So I handed it to him. He's like, yeah, you ain't getting this back. And he just finished smoking my cigar. I was like, mother... all right, cool. So I pulled out another cigar, lit me up another cigar. I was like, all right, that's where to go. But then I was like, shit, I gotta find me another one of these USIRs.
I'll give you
I came up here and I'm like, hey, why do we have like the fifth dimension? Where the hell's the USIR? He's like, well, we don't have that up here. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to call Pops, figure out what's going on. Call Nathan and figure out why we don't have USIRs in here, because that's worth having. I mean, I've done, when they go to Vegas or the big cigar shows and they come back, man, I've done it twice. I don't know that I'll ever do it again, but I've sat on the committees where they bring in 100 cigars and there's 6, 8, maybe 10, depending on which one it was, of us sitting around voting on them.
Yeah.
You smoke 100 cigars in like 2 hours. Couple puffs, take a note, pass it down the row. And man, I was like, I thought this was going to be cool. And this is like a guy that loves cigars' dream. I was like, oh, hell no. This is shit. Like, then I started wondering, because like, I've never actually gone to like a factory and like been a part of the whole process. Like I don't ever want to like have my own cigar, my own, like put my band on something. Like I could give 3 shits about that. But like I want to go be a part of it. Like I'd love to go with one of my friends that's like doing a new blend or something, or ICC house blend or something, and go with them and just be a part of the process and just be the fly on the wall, smoke with them, enjoy it, watch it, see how they do that. And like, how do you find that? And then like, especially when they're going to be aged longer, how's that going to change it? And then you smoke it again 3, 6 months, a year, whatever later, when it actually shows up. Like, is it the same? Is it different? Like, how these guys are so fucking talented at doing this and knowing where it's going to end up, or even sometimes not knowing, but feeling like it's a good enough gamble to do it with that much tobacco, especially when you get to these larger manufacturers of cigars. Dude, that is still to this day mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I'm a bourbon guy and a tequila guy. But when you put a bourbon into the barrel and say, all right, that's going to sit in this rick house for 4 years.
Yeah.
Then we're going to move it to the west side of this other rick house.
And how they tilt
and how
them.
they
Yeah,
change and
yeah.
mix them up. And, like, then they blend them at times.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, man. Like, and, like, how does somebody like Jack Daniels, Wild Turkey, Buffalo Trace, how does their baseline stuff always taste like their baseline stuff? Because you can kind of control that, but you can't completely, because there's still Mother Nature at work. Whether it's the soil, the sun, the rainy season, the not so rainy season, like that stuff is mind blowing.
It all plays into it, man. It plays into the consistency, but where the main part of it all comes in is the fermentation and how they control the turning of the pilons. And that's where it all is. Now, a lot of people, the aging room process is very important, of course. But the fermentation and the pilons, how they, all that.
Stack them,
That
dry
is-
them, everything.
Yeah, and that is very, very important. And of course, the aftercare also. You know,
Yeah.
you can go through all that, but you know, if you get, there's so many steps in this process, and this is why I always take. Okay. Everything that I have, okay, look, everything's individually bagged, and you're not going to see anything
Right.
that's not cared for in my road stock, just thrown in. I'm very serious about proper care and road stock and everything and like that.
Yeah, I mean, you even had a humidity bag in
Yeah.
there. Like, you're making sure
Everything's-
that it stays, whether your
everything is
car's
separate,
in
yeah.
Colorado or your car's
Yeah.
here in Dallas.
I don't leave road stock in the car. I don't, you know what I'm saying? It's like, why? There's so many steps to all this, you know, and everything has to be in its own. Everything has to be cared for every step of the way, I think.
I agree.
You can lose the process at any part of that journey, you know, and so you have to respect every part of what everybody's done, you know, the fermentation, the pilons, the aging room,
Yeah.
all that. You can drop the ball anywhere in that process if these cigars aren't cared for properly.
yeah.
Like, man, this sucker's dry. What happened here, man? It's falling up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Oh,
and
you
then
guys
they're
would die laughing at me.
And that's what I'm saying. And these guys are going to say, oh, it's a factory issue. No, man. Okay. Well, what happened? Well, I don't know. All I did was just leave them sitting, you know, in the back seat for, 3 weeks, not cared,
Yeah.
Well, do you think you might have, maybe should have taken care of that a little better? Or, I don't know. All I did was leave it in my suitcase for 3 weeks. So let's talk, let's think, approach things a little bit.
Yeah, because this might be
So-
that person's first
Exactly.
experience or impression
Now-
of your cigar.
So, and I'll even go one step further. There are some big retail chains out there. Now, hold on. Let me just kind of just draw that back a little. There had been some retail, I'll just say retail outlets out there that companies have said no to because they kind of have their process of putting the cigars out there have kind of been questionable. Like, there's been, noticeable lack of care
Yeah.
with the way they display cigars.
Or store them. Or
Exactly.
anything.
And so anyway, but as far as the processing, like what you're talking about down in the factory process, it's mind-blowing, brother. I mean, what they do down there. And it's, like you said, so many of so much of the process is left to the agricultural side and how it all comes together, because there is so much of it that's Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Like you said, like the rain, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Now, see, one of the things that's another thing, a lot of people, when they see, like, of course, you know, shade, the word shade, when it comes to Connecticut's, you know, in Nicaragua, they put up the cheesecloth over the fields to shade the leaf because they don't want the sun to hit it as much, so they can, they keep that sunblock off of them, you know, that they block that sunlight off, so they can, the leaf doesn't turn that brown, so they can keep it nice and light for the Connecticut leaf.
Yeah.
Now you go to Nicaragua or you go to Ecuador, and this is why I think the Ecuadorians make the best Connecticut leaf out there. Where Ecuador sits, they got that cloud cover, so that leaf doesn't turn like that, so they don't have to have that shade. That's why you won't see that word shade on an Ecuadorian Connecticut box. So that's why I've always felt that the Ecuadorian Connecticut leaf is always going to be superior.
I'm going to have to pay attention to that and try that to like really.
Now, look, there's nothing wrong with Shade Connecticut, man. I smoke them all the time. Yeah, I smoke them all the time.
But I want to like do a side by side to like really compare.
But yeah, so I mean, yeah, do the old Pepsi challenge thing, see what you think, So, but to me, they're both fine cigars. But I've always just kind of tended to go towards that Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper. It's just, to me, it's just a phenomenon.
Well, I got a funny story for y'all.
Bring it on.
Yeah, so I was on vacation last week in the Bahamas, and I met a gentleman that turned out to be a really cool conversation. He's an NBA Hall of Famer, Mr. Alonzo Mourning.
Oh, you met Zoe, huh?
I met Zoe, and he was cool as shit. And like we started talking, and he's in Florida. I happened to have a foreign affair on me, and I was like, hey man, he was telling me where he lived and stuff, and he's in Coral Gables and stuff. I'm like, well, shit, like, I was like, do you ever play golf with Michael Jordan? He's like, I've played his course and stuff. I mean, we ain't played in a long time, but I mean, yeah, I was like, do you know his caddy, like Frankie? And he's like, no, I don't know who Frankie is. I'm like, all right, well, Frankie. So I start telling him about Frankie, and I'm like, all right, well, like, dude, you need to look this up in Miami. Try this cigar. Like, I think you'll like it based on what he was smoking at that day. I was like, try this. I was like, you know what? Fuck it, man. I looked at my box. I was like, I got a foreign affair. I was like, hey, man, this is for you. He's like, oh, we can't do that. He's like, all right, you just giving me a cigar? I'm like, yeah, man, like, I want you to try that. Like, I think you'll like it. This is done with Luciano. Like, it's Frankie. Like, try it out, man. Like, this was a highly rated cigar when it came out. Like, I mean, I really think you're going to like this based on what you're smoking. He's like, all right, man, I'll try it out. So I hand it to him, and he gives me some, like, he's like, well, I got to give you something if you just gave me something. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm totally down to, like, smoke something Alonzo Mourning gave me. I'm in. I was like, and I'm sitting here smoking with him like this, like, we're just chopping it up.
Please don't tell me he gave you some bullshit.
Dude, no. He gave me some, like, older Monte Cristo white label.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, he's like, smoke this while you play golf or something. I'm like, dude, I'm going to smoke this tomorrow night and, like, tell everybody, like, I'm smoking a cigar Alonzo Mourning gave me. And he's like, all right, cool. He's like, I ended up seeing him every day I was there. We all ended up at the end of the night at the one little cigar bar smoking. Well, he tells us about this restaurant we have to go to. He's like, go off site one night. You got to go to Grey Cliff. He's like, ask for this, that, blah, 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 blah. Like, you guys need to do this. Like, take your beautiful wife and go have a nice dinner here. I'm like, all right, bet, I'm in. So I book it, we go. And he's like, and hey, man, you need to try. Like, they have their own cigar. Like, he's like, they'll have a little guy there rolling and everything else.
The Grey Cliff cigar place?
Yeah.
The Grey Cliff cigar?
Grey Cliff.
Yeah, I mean, I know Grey Cliff cigars, yeah.
So they didn't have, like, when I got there, and maybe I should have asked more questions and whatnot. Long story short, but, they've got the little guy rolling, and, like, here comes, like, either the owner or the manager, and he's sitting there puffing on this, like, he's one of those guys that, like, chewed his cigar. Ugh. And I think he chewed it more than he smoked it, but like he's just got this like freshly rolled cigar that's just gnawed to shit. And I'm like, I mean, I'm kind of like turned off already, like by this whole cigar experience here. And I'm like, fuck, I should have brought my own. I have all my cigars I brought with me. I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna try it. So the little guy's sitting there and he doesn't speak much English. He's rolling this cigar and I'm like, hey man, like I want one of your hand rolls. Like, but where I fucked up, I should have asked him, like, do you have any you already rolled that have been like, you know, like not today, like right now? Like I should have done that. Like that was mistake number one. And mistake number two was I should have been like, hey, I know you guys have Great Cliff cigars. Like, can I buy any of these? Like, or is there any of those I can buy to smoke? Yeah. Never asked that. So I buy this like huge torpedo that's probably like 8 inches, 10 inches long. And there's this other group of people that we've already moved to like the lounge area where the piano player is. We're trying to get away from this really drunk group of 4. Yeah. That these guys are so obnoxious. This dude's wearing white pants, a denim shirt, clearly from Canada, because he told everybody in the bar he's from Canada and went to a private boarding school there.
Canada,
yeah. I made that joke and it went, and I was just like, all right, whatever. So the dude, like the one dude, he spills half a bottle of like some really expensive wine, like all over him. They continue serving this dude. Like tables are asking to be moved to other rooms. Like they're so obnoxious. Well, we go out and have our dessert in the little formal area. So I go to get a cigar. I buy it's $20. I'm like, all right, cool. Give me this. Alonzo Mourning said I had to try this, so I'm gonna try it. And man, like he just pulls one out that he rolled, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes ago, hands it to me, and the other guy's like, that's $20. And I'm like, cool, here you go, $20. Well, I'm laughing at the Canadian dude because he like, so torpedo, you know, it's got the torpedo up here. He cuts it down here. Like he cuts off like 3 inches of cigar. And the guy's like, what are you doing, man? And he was like, well, I mean, I'm not going to smoke this whole thing, and that's the way I like it. He's like, you're $20, whatever you want to do. I watch this clown go back, and like it just gets worse with them. But I cut mine, light it, start smoking on it. Dude, this thing was like starting a Harley. I mean, like, this cigar had 0 draw, and I asked the guy, I was like, so what kind of wrapper, binder, filler are you using here? And the guy just looks at me with blank eyes that's rolling the shit. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. The old man that's sitting there gnawing on his shit, he's like, it's an Ecuadorian wrapper. I'm like, any specific kind? Any more information you want to tell me about this cigar you're having this guy roll? No, I mean, it's good. You'll like it. All right. I go sit down. We're eating dessert, man. And I'm not shitting you, man. Like, you couldn't keep this thing lit. Like, it was so wet, so tightly rolled. Yeah. There was nothing. I was like, dude, that was just dumb on my part. I mean, I smoked like a third of it and was like, I'm done. Like, I feel like I'm about to, like, hyperventilate over here because I've been trying so hard to smoke a cigar. And I see Zoe the next day, and I was like, hey, we went to Great Cliff, man. That place is badass. Like, definitely the best food meal we had on the island the entire time we were there. I was like, phenomenal recommendation. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. He's like, how are those cigars, man? I was like, you're going to love the cigar I gave you. If that's your idea of a good cigar, because that was shit. Yeah. He's like, it was shit? And I was like, yeah, man, like, you couldn't smoke the thing. I was like, but that's probably partially my fault. He's like, did you get the tour of the wine cellar and all this? Like, this building has been around, the land in the building since 1600s. Like, whatever famous pirate that ran the Bahamas, that's where his fortress was. Eventually, it became a school, a jail, a hotel, another hotel, an
Jack
embassy.
Sparrow, right?
No, it's kind of what it's based off
God
of.
dang it. I forgot. Johnny, never mind. Johnny Depp. Wrong. I'm confused.
It's kind of along those lines. But yeah. So you read the whole thing, man. There's like damn books on it and stuff in there. But it was wild, man. All right, well, we'll get off of that. Tell everybody. I mean, I just finished the USIR. You know, you got some stuff here.
USIR.
Break these out and tell the people about the cigars and like give them the info on the Jake Wyatt.
So that was the USIR is our Habano. So our other Habano that we have was our original blend that Neil Garcia came up with, the cornerstone, what I like to call the cornerstone of the Jake Wyatt Cigar Company, the fourth dimension. So Dominican Olor. So this is a Bellicoso. So if you want to get a nice shot of that, that's the Bellicoso there.
We got it.
So the fourth dimension, Dominican Olor binder, nice. So the USIR will have a nice little kind of tinge of spice to it. This is the fourth dimension is going to be a straight kind of just a nice Habano with just straight medium. So then we get to our Maduro that we have in the house tonight. That's going to be our Maduro. Okay, this is actually the #1 selling cigar at the Jake Wyatt Cigar Company. The nice Maduro, Dominican Olor binder with some Connecticut accents on there. Really nice stick. And then we go over to the Connoisseur Collection, the Lithium. That's a nice Habano there. This one has a hybrid leaf in there called the T13. Really nice. You just got to kind of smoke this one. This one kind of kicks up a notch a little stronger Habano than the other two. Really great cigar.
Developed that one smoke that with something lighter, because that is the second cigar that I was telling you all about that, like, I didn't love it, I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
But like, I think if I had a different palate that day, hadn't maybe eaten Mexican food or whatever I had that day, like that one, you just need to have it with something lighter. Like if you had steak and wine or something like that, and you wanted to have that afterwards with your dinner, that one is on a different level. That's a different level cigar.
So, and then our other Maduro that is going to kick it up a notch a little, going to be stronger. This is our stronger of the two Maduros that we have. This one is the JW Maverick. It's going to have the San Andres Maduro wrapper with a Corojo binder. So it's going to make it a little stronger. Really great cigar. I tell you what, this cigar does phenomenally well. Really great cigar. If you like the strong stuff, the JW Maverick, can't go wrong with that. That's about all we got on the table tonight. But we have a few more cigars. I just kind of going off of what I had on my road stock this afternoon. So that's about it. But I do have some other stuff on our website at jakewyattcigars.com. You're more than welcome to look anything up or DM me, Tony Gomez on Facebook, Tony Gomez 9479 on Instagram. If you got any questions or anything, feel free to hit me up anytime.
Yeah, you guys, he's super accessible. Like if you guys are interested, you want to learn more about it, I mean, seriously, like DM him. I mean, get all up in his DMs. Like he will respond to you.
Yeah.
He, if you want to learn more, he's more than happy to educate you. He'll tell you when he's in town. If you want to go,
I got no life.
Yeah, if you want to meet him at ICC or Renegade or Blue Smoke, wherever you want to meet him.
If you want to do Saturday at the shop, hey, I'm game. Come on,
yeah. So I will tell you guys, and this is me personally. This is not Tony saying this. This is me telling you my personal experience with this. I would start in the gourmet line, the connoisseurs line, and just whatever type of wrapper or whichever one calls to you, start in the gourmet line. I mean, like, this is not like me telling you to like go Davidoff and go gourmet Davidoff where you're paying like, I don't know, 60 to God knows what for some anniversary edition or something like that. Like, it's not the same thing. Like, I know I'm saying the word gourmet. Don't read too far into that. Like, their gourmet line is right there in a very affordable pricing, no matter what lounge you go to buy it in. But start in the gourmet line and work your way from there. Because my opinion of Jake Wyatt is their gourmet line is very gourmet and very good across the board. Like, each one was developed and put out for a very specific purpose. Now, their standard line, I feel like it hits hard in any of the areas that you like. So if you're not sure what you really like and you're trying something new, that's why I would suggest starting in the gourmet line and then work your way. Like, if you really like the Maduro and like that's kicking for you, cool. Go try the Maverick next, because the Maverick is much more in your face. It's bolder, it's stronger than the gourmet Maduro is.
Yeah.
But if you really like that, then like elevate up. Like, you're also probably saving a little bit of money, but like that's the way I would approach it as somebody that's watching this, that's a novice or really just trying to find their way, or you want to try something new with a brand that you don't know a lot about. That's how I would do it. Like, it's hard to tell you to start with the best of the best in a lot of brands, but actually I think that's like a selling point with Jake Wyatt. You can start with our best of the best and you're gonna love it. You're gonna like that when you find what works for you in our gourmet line. And then when you know that, well, you can also enjoy like our standard baseline that we put out regularly that you can find real easily at any shop. That, I think, is like key for me on that.
I think our gourmet, and you know, actually, our gourmet line that's our core series, and you know, if somebody's wanting to start out light to medium, we always suggest the fourth dimension, the Habano, and the appendix, or Connecticut. And if they want to go Maduro, of course, the Herbert Spencer. And you're covered on all. You're covered on all.
Fourth Dimension's excellent, though. For the record, that's what I smoked before we sat down for the show. So.
And then the USIR, man, that's another great medium to full cigar. Just a little tad over medium. I don't know if I'd actually go medium to full like I just said, but medium plus is where I'd put it. But that USIR, we get a lot of compliments on that one. So I'm so glad that you were pleased with it. Yeah.
So, that's the one that really hit home for me, that whether I'm drinking tequila or I'm drinking bourbon, that one just hits for me on an all around, like, that I would label that my daily smoker within Jake Wyatt.
I think anything in our gourmet line, which our gourmet line consists of the appendix, the fourth dimension, the Herbert Spencer, the lucid interval, and the USIR. Any one of those five, we're gonna get you in there somewhere.
Yeah, and the lucid interval is the one that if you are a more experienced cigar smoker, it's probably the one that's going to scare you. You're going to feel like I'm going back to 2001 and smoking clove cigarettes in a bar. Like, that's what you're going to think in your head. I like that analogy. But that's not what it is. Like, when you actually sit back and enjoy it, you'll appreciate the artistry behind it and what they did with it, because they took a wrapper that is hard to blend with, and they actually like enhanced the good part of it, and the parts that most people are leery towards, they downplayed those, and they highlighted the more intricate parts of it.
Yeah, that more than covers it. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
That's where I would go with it, but that's just me personally, and I know just like whether we're talking bourbon, tequila, or cigars, everybody's palates are different, and the same cigar might hit different on a different day for you too. So, like I said, the first time I smoked the Maverick, like, it just was like a donkey kicking you when you walked by, and I was like, whoa, shit, I wasn't ready for that. But the second time I had it, like, maybe I was more relaxed. Maybe I had a salad for lunch instead of like Cajun food or something,
it is something. Like if you have a nice steak dinner, Maverick's a good one to go with.
Yeah. So I mean, you guys, like, I think it's very important for you to think about these things and see these things, especially when we're doing a show like tonight where we're talking about cigars. Cigars vary so much, but don't get discouraged. Like I said, you know, Tony didn't get discouraged when I told him that the first Jake Wyatt I smoked I thought was shit.
Yeah.
That didn't end our conversation. That was two dudes being real with each other and having a conversation. He's like, you asked, like, you didn't just leave it there. You were like, why didn't you like this?
Yeah.
Like, what was it that you didn't like? And I was like, I hate Jack Daniels. Yeah. And that, like, hit on, like, it's like I liked Crown growing up.
Yeah.
When Crown made Crown black, man. I don't know what it is that makes Crown blacker to this day. Filtration process, whatever that is. Crown Black will give me acid reflux in about 3 seconds flat.
Yeah.
And I will be miserable. It doesn't taste bad, but like I will be miserable.
Yeah.
Jack Daniels process is the same thing for me. Like it doesn't matter unless it is a special limited release, special reserve from Jack Daniels that doesn't taste like banana runts, then I can drink that. But it's few and far between. So I try to stay within those lanes, and like that's, you know, if any of you guys have questions for Tony, like please pop them up here. I'm happy to like dive into any questions you guys have. Other than that, like we're just gonna keep rapping and like let you guys, you know, go with it. So where do you want to go with Jake Wyatt? Like what is your goal currently? Like
we just want to build the brand. We just want to build the brand, make it bigger and make it better. That's what we want to do. We want to elevate us to the next level, keep it going, make the brand more recognizable, and take it to the next level, to where we're not so. No, I've never heard of that. You know, no, tell me about it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's our goal, and we are slowly getting there. We've had a good year of establishing more name recognition. Neil did some great work up in Canada, and we had some. We established some clientele at PCA.
Yeah.
In Canada, and now Neil went out there and did some work in Canada and did some great events, and so we want to build upon that. We are making our way throughout the Southwest. Neil is working a little more in the Northeast. I'm kind of heading up this area, like in the Midwest and in the Southwest. So it's just slowly coming together. So just all about getting bigger, getting better, but, you know, building a sales force. We've added a couple of more guys this year. We think that they're working out pretty well, but making the brand more attractive to where we know that with the right brokers, we're not just going to get thrown to the back of a portfolio with any sales work. You know, a broker has a job to do. A broker is wanting to generate revenue for himself and for his brokerage, and we know that. And look, that's what a broker's job is, and that's his goal. And he understands time is money.
Yeah.
And it's all about going in there and being efficient with every minute he has in front of that store owner, in front of that retailer, and in front of whatever GM he's in front of that's going to be ordering cigars. So if he sees that he's not getting anywhere with this brand, that he's having to go into too long of a pitch and everything, and the guy's like, he's having to take too long to say, hey, let me tell you about this guy, this brand over here. It's, well, I've never heard of it, man. It's our job to go out there and build this brand. And that's what we're doing. So
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
All right, I got a loaded question for you.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So, say there's someone out there that maybe is like where you started out, where, all right, I really have a passion for cigars. I love cigars. I don't know what I want to do with cigars yet. Like, I want to be involved. I'm going to put myself in positions. I'm taking on whatever odd job they get in the early stages. So tell that person what it's like to go from there to where you are currently, because I'm sure there's a lot of misconceptions, just like there is in my industry, of going from being able to estimate to selling to, you know, whatever part you want to project managing. How are you going with this? So I imagine that it's not all like, hey, I'm hanging out with Big Tony and we're staying at the Ritz-Carlton for the big smoke show and we're flying first class or private and I'm on a plane with, you know, Luciano or Nelson or, you know, any of these guys. Like, tell them what that really is like. Like, because I mean, I'm sure you're not actually staying in Ritz-Carlton's. Like, you're on the road, you travel a shit ton, it limits your personal home life. Tell them about that so that they know if they want to go down that road, what that road's like.
We get that all the time. And we get that all the time. And usually the question comes in the form of, hey man, how do I become a rep? And a lot of times it's from guys that are sitting in lounges, smoking cigars, and they see us coming in, you know, talking with shop owners and smoking cigars or having, you know, hosting events.
Yeah.
And they see the certain sides of it.
They see the glamour.
And, you know, glamour. And there's a lot of fun to it. I will tell you that. There is a good upside to it. You get to meet great people. And you get to experience a lot of meeting, going different places. You're not always in the same place. I'm just going to tell you this right now, and there's no disrespect to people that do this for a living. I could not sit in an office all day. I could not sit behind a computer and work in a cubicle all day, okay? And like I said, no disrespect to people who do that and earn a living that way. That's a very necessary part of life. Without people who you know, crunch code and stuff like that all day,
absolutely,
the world wouldn't move. So that's a necessary part of life. I'm not cut out for that. Now, there is a different side of this. There is accountability. There is a check and balance system with this. There is like when I say accountability, there is expectation. There is a lot of alone time. There is a lot of, you go without a lot. You sacrifice a lot of social time. You basically, you don't have a social life. You are on the road 3 weeks a month. You know, there are things that I go without. There are things I miss out on. There are things I have to sacrifice. Now, anytime that I feel like saying, oh man, poor man, this job, man, I'm so tired, you know, I back it up and I tell myself, hey, this is what you asked for, big boy. This is what you wanted. This is what you signed up for. This is the job. So back it up there, man, because you wanted this and you knew what you were getting into. So put them big boy pants on and do your job.
Have the discipline to do the daily things.
And here's the whole thing. Understand that there are a lot of guys out there that want to be doing what you're doing. And there is a good side of this also. And be thankful for what you have. Don't cry about what you don't have. Be thankful for what you do have. Now, on the turn of that, when you encounter the people that are asking you, I got a phone call from a guy today who's a really good guy, and he was asking me, he was inquiring about, because there's there's an opening at one of the companies that's up, and he was asking me, hey man, do you think that they'll, can you make a phone call for me, or can you? And I was like, well, but I don't know anybody over there, but I tell you what, let me see what I can do. And I told him, but look, here's the thing, you got a youngster at home, and you got a little one at home, and your wife's going to be expecting you at home a lot probably, and you got to ask yourself, are you willing to be on the road 3 weeks a month? Are you willing to get that phone call from your wife asking you where you at, when you coming home? And the reason I say that is because you got to look at it this way. If you talk to your wife more than twice a day during the day, this ain't the job for you. It's just not. Because you got to wake up early in the morning and go, and you got to come home late at night, or you got to go back to the hotel 11:30, 12 o'clock at night sometimes. Stop, drop, take a shower, boom, get up and go and do the same thing. Sometimes, I don't check in, I don't check in with Tam till the next day, because she's already crashed out, and I'm not going to call her and wake her up.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because that's the job.
She knows, but that was the expectation set from,
we've been doing this for years. She already knows the routine. It's okay. That's just it. We've been doing this for years now, brother. It's all good. She knows.
Yeah.
I'm 55. She's 57. It's all good. We're within the mine are. I got 2 from a previous marriage. They're already up and out. They're 29 and 30. They're and so we're on autopilot with those. So I don't have the little ones there. When you have the little ones at home, you got to be there. It's tough to do.
You got to be present.
The wife wants you at the soccer games. The wife wants you at the PTA meetings. So there's a lot of stuff like that you got to take into account. Now, if somebody asks me, hey, how do you start out? You got to get a job at a cigar lounge, man. You got to, that's the way I honestly believe, because you got to know this thing inside out. You gotta know
where it starts, and then work your way backwards almost.
And look, I'll be honest. Eric Espinosa made Eric Jr. work at a lounge for a year when they took over. When Eric kind of went full all in with the Espinosa Cigar Company, he made Eric Jr. work at a lounge for a year, and I mean not just part time, full time, man. I mean, and he was there cleaning, how these guys bust their ass here at ICC, doing the same thing. Hey, cleaning the restroom, and he told the guy that owned the cigar, hey, don't hold his hand. Like, he's got to do everything. Like, just because he's my son, don't make him, and that's the whole thing, and it's all about, you got to know. Now, I understand that if you have sales experience and this and that, and you might be able to get on somewhere, because there is some of that going on these days.
Yeah.
And that's fine if you could get in. But in my opinion, you got to be passionate about cigars to do this. I know that it's a common trend right now to just get guys.
Because cigars are booming, man. It's become
you got sales guys that are coming in from Fortune 500 companies, and but in my opinion, the day that this becomes a widget, you know what I'm saying, and it's just like you're selling 500 of the. I heard a joke one time. These 2 guys at a multi-vendor company one time. And they were telling me, well, I don't know what's in it, but I know I sold the guy, 200 boxes of it. And it was kind of like, wow, bro. Like, really? Like, okay. Like, okay, if that works for you. Yeah. But, hey, but I can't.
I kind of feel that way.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong here. I kind of feel like that's the way Cubans are today. I don't want to shit on Cuban cigars, because Cuban cigars, that's what everything is founded upon. That's like your Declaration of Independence, basically.
Yeah, well,
to a certain degree.
yeah, I mean,
To a certain degree, like Cubans became the Nike of cigars,
well,
and
I've never had a lot of experience with them, so I really can't speak to that. I mean, with me, everything that I've known has been Nicaraguan and Dominican, but I do know that at one time,
kind of my point.
yeah,
everybody like wants to search for this. Like, I need these Cuban cigars and shit. Like, cool. If you're my age and your grandfather doesn't have some like immaculate humidor and you're smoking Cubans from the 70s to the 80s, I probably don't give a shit, because I can honestly tell you that there's probably better cigars from a multitude of other countries in today's day and age.
Now,
like, Cuban cigars are not today what they were in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s.
That seems to be the common sentiment. Now, I do know that there is a following for pre-embargo cigars, but
that gets you into that time period.
yeah, and that's something for high-end collectors.
Yeah,
and
but
that's something that I've never had the means for.
Yeah, but that's different.
And that's something that's completely out of my...
But people that chase these, you guys that are traveling, going on cruises and vacations to islands, and I'm just telling you straight up, like, you're getting ripped off paying like $80, $100 for some maybe not even a real Cohiba that you think's a Cohiba, or a Monte Cristo, or a Romeo and Juliet. Like, you guys are paying stupid fucking money for something that is being presented to you as a Cuban. And if that's your first Cuban, is that really how you want to go about that? So, like, you really need to like step back and go like, all right, like, I want it's almost like when you travel to a new place, like, me personally, I want to go to the best restaurant that the locals go to. Like, I want to involve myself, immerse myself in the culture, and go, all right, the locals, this is their spot. Like, I want to go there and have a dinner. And I tell the chef, like, if this is my only time to ever eat here, you make me whatever you want. Make me your best dish. Like, because I want to remember this experience. Like, you should treat cigars the same way. Like, don't get sold by some dude with a stand on the side of a beach telling you here's a bee-hike Cohiba for $80 that everybody in the cigar world knows. If it was true, it's $400. Like, don't do that to yourself. Like, that's my point of that.
I have heard two people that are very high up in the cigar industry tell me that they have gone over to Europe and, you know, they just said, hey, you know what? I'm over here. I'm going to try them out just to see what they smoke like.
Yeah.
And they bought the high-end stuff. And they said that probably 2 out of a box of 10 and then maybe 5 out of a box of 20 smoked good. And that was it. And that was it. And that was it.
Smoked good, not great, not excellent, not the best thing I ever smoked in my life.
They went into it kind of knowing that was a possibility.
Yeah.
Now, me, I'm just gonna kind of stick with what I know works. I'm just that kind of guy.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I'm
not going to jump through hoops.
But I always want to try new stuff. Like, even like, I mean, this is like actually the perfect example of this. Like, I told Tony, I didn't like the first 2 cigars that I smoked. Like, that's bad news to the national sales director. I didn't like my first 2 experiences with your brand. He's like, fuck, I maybe have one more chance to get this guy to like even remotely enjoy a Jake Wyatt cigar. I mean, that's real talk.
Yeah,
like,
I get it.
You're looking at me like, holy shit, like, he didn't like this, he didn't like, all right. And you pulled out the gauntlet and you're like, all right, roll with it. Smoke it at your leisure.
Yeah.
See what you like. Like, hey man, at the end of the day, if you don't like this, like I still want, I love you, bro.
Yeah, bro. And
Like
man, yeah.
we're still cool.
Look,
Like, just tell me, like, cause I need to know as the national sales director, why when you smoke the Gauntlet on all this other stuff, do you not like any of my cigars? That would be a different conversation.
This is an industry that you have to accept criticism. You have to accept. You can't.
So
sit
how do
there
you
and-
deal with that with your new guys? You said you have sales guys that you've brought on. You're bringing new guys. And I want to make this point because like this happens across the board no matter what you sell. How many times have you been told no? And how do you teach these new guys
let me just
about
explain
no?
to you. Okay, so let me tell you this. This was a lesson that I had to learn, and I kind of knew this was going to happen because there are relationships that I formed over a almost 5-year period with Espinosa with a lot of retailers
That's a strong relationship.
Exactly. And now it's like, hey, you know, man,
I'm the new kid on the block.
Look, man, hey, look, Tone, man, I know we go way back, but this brand's just not, I just don't think it's something that we can move. You know, you don't have a lot of name recognition, and, you know, we appreciate you coming by and everything, but I think we're going to hold off for right now because I don't have the shelf space for it. But I tell you what, check back with me. A couple of them smoked really well. I really liked them. Check back with me.
Yeah.
And, you know, so you understand, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of like, and you have to accept that. And it's not personal. It's just business. And so, and then there were some guys that were like, man, I really like this. I tell you what, I can't buy as much as what I used to buy from you, but I'm going to bring it in. We're going to give it a whirl. And then there were some guys.
That's best case scenario.
And then I'll tell you what, there were some guys that didn't carry Espinosa that are carrying this. So it's kind of like, it almost kind of shakes in some, you know, so yeah, it kind of, you know, you win some, you lose some kind of thing. And then there are some, and at first it was kind of there was one retailer in particular that it was the first one was kind of like a knock to the head for me, because it was like, man, bro, as much stuff as I did for you and as much stuff, you know what I mean? But then that was like, and then I kind of had to tell myself, hold on, whoa, pull it back, Tom, pull it back. Don't take it personal, man. You know, it's just business, you know. Yeah. And then I had to say, you know, and then I had to go, and then I had to like pull it back in, and I was like, hey, you know what, brother? I get it, no problem. You know, I tell you what, when you're ready, I'm ready. It's no biggie. Like, you know, and here's the whole thing. I cannot go into the old jump through hoops with you because I got people over here that I got
paying customers.
Yeah, I got to, and it's not personal and it's not trying to be like negative with you.
But hey, man, when you're ready,
exactly,
I got you,
brother. When you're ready to pull the trigger, let me know, and I'm
like,
hey,
you know what?
We got stuff
do you
to do
feel like that?
here.
Like, is that a like hard thing to like instill in your other sales guys?
No,
that like, hey man, like you're still building this relationship, but letting him know like, hey, I get it. You're not ready to pull the trigger yet. We're still going. And hey, bro, I'm good. Like, I want you to know, like, I'm good. Yeah. Like, my brand, everything we're doing, like, we're rocking and rolling. Like, and I get it. It may not be the right time for you. How do you train those guys to, I guess what I'm saying, like, how do you train them to like
pass that along to
feel that and like kind of like gauge that to where they're like, okay, he's giving me like a hard no right now. Yeah. But you're like, hey man, like, it's cool. Like I'm here. I'm gonna drop this off. I'm gonna run. I've got to go deal with some other shit because like I've got this over here. But like, hey man, whenever you're ready, like I mean, I'm your guy. It's like that balance. Like how do you teach them that balance?
It's kind of like a lead by example, and you always got to kind of let them know, hey brother, we just keep on going. We just keep on trucking. Yeah, that's it. Don't let it define you. Don't let it define you. Just keep them on the back burner. Keep them on the list. Check in with them every once in a while. You know, and then what you do is, and this is real important. Always celebrate what you got and always let what you got keep on shining, because that's the only way that these over here are going to see that your brand is still kicking.
Yeah, like you're shining over here like, hey, man, like, I'm sorry you weren't ready to get on yet.
Yeah.
Now that we're here, cool. And you still treat them the same way. Like, hey, cool. You weren't ready before, but like you're ready now. All right, I'm going to slide you a little bit of this.
And
here's
eventually they're going to see, hey, man, they're doing pretty good. They're doing pretty good over there.
Yeah.
You know, let me, you know, so that's what you got to do. You got to shine what you got, baby. You got to shine what you got. You got to make it sound, you know, I mean, hey, that's why I get out there and do the videos. That's why I get out there and you know, boom, man. Hey, come see him over here. You know, I mean,
I want to encourage you to keep doing those videos, man, because that's, in all honesty, like that's kind of what drew me to following you on Facebook. Like, I don't follow near as many people anymore. I try to cut back on that, and that was coaching advice I got. Following versus followers, like all that bullshit.
I totally understand.
Anybody in sales knows what I'm talking about.
Let me tell you, one of the guys that inspires me a lot, man, is Pedro Gomez, man. He's a good friend of mine at Drew Estate. Hey, Pedro Gomez and Drew, you know, and every time I see him, man, he's, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have an entertainment factor.
Keep doing what you're doing, man. You know.
Yeah, get after it. All right, man.
That's
well,
my boy, man.
we're running over now, so
all right.
You and I could do this all fucking day. Cool. So we'll have to do this again.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you for coming on the show.
It was a pleasure.
But now's where we wrap it up.
All right.
So I got 2 questions that I ask everybody at the end of the show.
You got it.
So the first one is, if you got to leave your children with one piece of advice, what piece of advice are you leaving them with?
Always stay true to yourself, and always, always be thankful for what you got, and always find positivity in your day.
That's awesome, man. I love that. And if y'all need some further up on that, follow my boy Biz, because I don't know if y'all noticed, but man, Biz has been on fire with these like daily posts, reels. Like, hey man,
I am prepping the podcast.
I'm gonna say this
soon.
and I probably shouldn't. And I don't mean this to be a dick, but I mean this with the utmost respect and love. Michael is definitely happy with what you're fucking doing, brother.
He is the reason why I'm getting off of my
I
ass
know.
and doing what I need to do.
I know that's the driving factor, but I want you to know from your boy, your good friend,
my brother.
like, bro, you are killing it. Like, you've got me over here going like, fuck. I gotta post more lives. I gotta like say this shit that's on my head. Like, damn it. Like, and I don't want to steer too far off of this. Like, we'll do a whole fucking episode on this. This is me and Biz shooting shit or whatever.
I did a reel while we were sitting here recording right now.
Yeah,
I recorded you too and just put you in the reel right now.
But like on the same note, man, like, why does it take like somebody like Michael telling you or people and then me seeing that from you and me seeing how that funnels and flows for us to like kick our shit up a notch?
Sometimes that is one of the episodes. It just takes something, I don't want to call it catastrophic, but it takes something pivotal in your life to actually push you off the edge to go.
That's right.
It's like when you're sitting there teetering and making up every excuse not to do it, and then when something you can't control takes over, you have no choice but to go forward.
And I know I'm not 50, but I better be one of his first fucking guests on his fucking podcast.
I already got your episode lined up.
We're gonna be brawling. I might need Tony to fucking produce my fucking show or something.
No, I ain't leaving home. You good on that?
All right, let's rock. All right. Hey, Biz, happy to have you back, brother.
Happy to be back.
Tony, last thing.
All right.
So the show's called Common Sense.
All right.
Maybe there's something I haven't asked you that would be common sense to you. Maybe there's something that we started talking about that we didn't get enough time to talk about. Whatever it is on your mind or whatever you want to put out in the great wide social media universe, it's your turn to give us just Big Tony Gomez's 2 cents.
Common sense. Okay. Live right, do right, be right. That's it.
Man.
And just smoke it, baby.
Smoke it, baby. I love it. Y'all, I hope you enjoyed this show. We have another great guest for y'all lined up next week before I have a week off. Sorry, I'm going to Myrtle to play golf. Not my problem.
Must
Love
be
you
nice.
guys, but I hope you guys enjoyed this show. We'll see you again next week. And Tony, dude,
You got
thanks,
it,
brother.
Órale.
Enjoy the shit out of it. Y'all have a good one. Peace.
Peace.